Hello, Urhobo. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Urhobocast with Onos Chanoms. Right here at urhobocast.tv. It's been a while, guys. It's been a very, very long time uh, with all that has happened and still happening, the pandemic. You will agree with me that it's not been easy for anyone. We've all been in it together, and a lot has happened. So many have not seen today, but we are thankful that we are here, and it's another great opportunity to come online to speak to you, my Urhobo people. My name is Honorable Chanomi. People call me Onos Chanoms. I've been in this Urhobo casting for quite a while, off and on. That's because of life generally. I've been planning and looking for an opportunity to return to come back online, but today I saw something that prompted me to come and speak to my Urhobo people. So, Urhobo Eyonwa, Urhobo Minimiyelio, Onomo wa Onoredo, Wemita Sansa Kata by Urhobo. From time to time, we'll be bringing out topics and we'll be speaking about them and just be touching on points and correcting a few misconceptions as well. But today, I was just on Facebook actually, and I came across a particular topic that I thought was, very provoking, something that it just came out. I needed to speak about. So it's in the group that I belong to, the Urhobo World United Union. And there was a topic there that is becoming up, for quite some time now. People have been talking about them or about this particular topic, and today I've decided to also lend a voice to it. So let's go into the topic proper. On there was a particular post that said, "What cultural practices would you like to see abolished in Urhobo land?" All right. What cultural practices would you like to see abolished in Urhobo land? And there were a lot of comments, a lot of people, coming up with their ones, and as you would expect, as a who are you one of the men, we're just coming with their points from their point of view, things that they don't like, and the women as well. And you can expect that the women will be talking more about cheating, polygamy, and all whatnot. And the men, coming with, their own angle as well. And one of those comments that I said, okay, I'm going to deal with today, a few that I picked up, and I'm just going to go, not in any particular order, but as the topic, I'm here on Facebook, and I'm just going to go through and just talk about them. This is from the men's side. One of those topics is about Urhobo women who commits adultery while still with their husbands. Well, if you're an adulterer, you're still with your husband, and their children will be dying. Their husband might die, and not the lady. It's quite funny that, and our people call that Erimi, okay, which means that when a woman commits adultery, which means goes out there to meet with other men or sleep with other men while being married, Irimi will then attack the husband or the children that she's had for that same man. And there was another one along the same line. A guy said that it's this aspect of the tradition that some Urhobo girls hate and end up marrying outside or sticking to church or court marriages without demanding that their dowry be paid traditionally first, like they fell from heaven. Did that make some sense? So these are stuff from the men's side. This is stuff that Urhobo men think about, that when they get married and their women cheats, Irimi, which is ancestral to the Urhobo people, and it's a belief, would then attack either the man or the kids. So now, some men would then be scared to eat the food or any kind of thing that the woman has prepared in the house once they suspect that this is happening. But unfortunately, in this day and age, it's baffling that our people still think like this. I just believe that at this time, in the 21st century, there are some stuff that we have been taught, things that have been passed on to us, that we now begin to interrogate at this stage, so that we don't do things, we don't go out of line, or we don't begin to create problems for ourselves. First thing first, in any culture, when you do stuff that are wrong, they are wrong. And for every wrongdoing, or for anything you do at all, there are consequences. All right? So some people say, oh, as an Urhobo girl, you don't cheat, you don't go and sleep with another person when you are married. That is true. You don't do that. You just don't do that. Okay? And there are consequences. But honestly speaking, the consequences of a woman sleeping outside of her marriage in Urhobo land cannot be the children dying or the husband dying. There is no such thing. It is a misconception. These are stuff. Listen, this is my opinion, yeah? And this is from experience. You can decide to query this. As a matter of fact, I would like to hear your comments after this. But you need to think about these things before you make a comment. Don't just dismiss to say, you're just talking rubbish. No. Think about it and come up with your comment under this YouTube recording. Listen. When you are married to a woman and you love your wife, when you find out that your wife is cheating on you, if you are not healthy, you could die. It is not irony or anything like that. You could have a heart attack. All right? The thought of what has happened in your marriage could kill you quite easily. And it is not the same with women. All right? Now, many things happen, okay, in various families, in different families. Children die, husband dies, wives die. You know, this is life. Okay? The reason I'm making this video is one, so that Urhobo women don't get scared because of these so-called traditions that have been passed on over time. I personally don't want my daughters to not marry an Urhobo man because she thinks that peradventure life gets to a point where she now have to meet somebody else while she's still married. Then her husband will die or her kids will die. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is this. Delta State have an intertwined cultural similarities to the extent that our cultures are nearly the same. Why is it that there is Irimi in Urhobo and there's no Irimi in Edo, and there's no Irimi in Isoko, and there's no Irimi in Kwale, when our marriages are the same? You know, the process of our marriages, Urhobo, Chekiri, Ijo, Isoko, Kwale, Benin, is the same. We pay dowry. Both families come together and they perform these traditional rites or traditional marriages. It's the same. So ask yourself, why is it that it's only Urhobo that has Irimi? I know that most of you will say, oh yeah, that is just something that is peculiar to Urhobo. But honestly speaking, think about it. The truth is very, very simple. When such things happen in most families, we quickly rush to the conclusion that the woman has done something wrong. When a man dies in a family, the first thing that our people think about is, what has the woman done? For me, those are some of the practices that we as Urhobos must see off, completely exorcise from our processes and our culture. That suspicion that a woman may have slept outside, that's why the husband has died. Or, oh, Retobu, come and say what you have done. A woman has typhoid fever, very, very bad, and it's sucking her dry. Or maybe a woman's got cancer, or the woman's got fibroid, and it's sucking her dry. She's emaciating every day. The first thing that our people think about is, Mowori Tubu, come and say what you have done. That is what I think we should do away with. But that your child will die because you have cheated, and then the question is asked, why don't the children die or the wife die when the man has cheated? Now that is a separate discussion altogether. But we move on. Please, in your comment, in the comment section, just tell us what you think about some of these things. All right. And then somebody brought this, that the act of sharing, or rather inheritance or inheriting the late father's wife to a biological son, it should be condemned because it's so barbaric and it's annoying. Yeah. In our society, in the olden days, something you need to understand is, or first thing I need to say about this is this, or maybe I should come back to it. You know, we hear stories of situations where a man dies and the wife is then remarried within the family and given to maybe the eldest son of the man that died, especially if the woman was a younger woman when the older man got married to her. And then I said, oh, you now have to marry within the family, maybe the husband's brother or the eldest son that may be nearly the same age as the woman. Now, first thing I want to say about that is, it is true that this kind of stuff happened in the past, but the society as we see today are actually frowning and doing away with that practice at the minute. I do not hear of such things anymore. I think what I hear these days is that these things happen and the woman is given a choice of, you know, staying within the family for protection, or, you know, let there be a division. Now you just go your way, go back to your parents. Whenever you want to bring the kids in, is okay. But what I actually want to talk about this is that, don't forget, these are practices of the olden days. In the pre-colonial era, we had villages. It is not today where we can go on Facebook and we meet different people. Before, we live in enclosures. Ogbe, you know, egodo honana, ogbe tine, oku echona, igure nana. Those were enclaves that we used to live in, to the extent that when people are married, it is the families that get married. They come together in a particular town and they get married. Now, look at it this way. When a death happens, the tendency is that within that family, because they know that, within that village, because they know that this woman has been married to a particular family, no family will want to go and marry such woman anymore, because of the word called Ogbe, as Urhobo said, and they call those people who lost their husband, they call them Omotogbe, which means they are no longer in marriage, they are widows. They call them Omotogbe. So when such things happen, because of the stigma, I think that is what the stigma is, what we need to do away with. That stigma that I think we actually doing that to a very large extent today, because we don't hear those words Omotogbe anymore. We've had situations where women loses their husband to death and they quickly rearrange themselves. Before you know it, 5 years they are remarried. It's quite easy these days with the advent of the internet, Facebook, and the rest. So, but before, they didn't have all of this. So the tendency is the woman will just be there by herself and her kids. So you have situation whereby even if that woman was seeing anybody, it will be so hidden. You see people, you know, making their way into the woman's house at night and out, because no such relationship will be sanctioned by the society, the enclave that we live in at that particular time. And that is the reason why it was devised then, that when a woman loses her husband, because it is incumbent on the family of the man that died to look after that woman, to give her protection, the woman and her kids, it was only wise that she was retained within the family. And if she was to be retained within the family, somebody has to be responsible for her and her kids. All right? Now, don't forget that when the man dies, members of the family will share in his inheritance back in the days. Because what with the situation we see back in the days, and when we find this kind of practices, is not when men live to a very old age and dies, is when younger men dies and they leave younger women. Don't forget, women with a lot of properties, those properties will be shared among the family members. Don't forget that the kids will be so young then, to the extent that they may not be able to share in the inheritances at them. So they will then have a kind of they will put someone to look after the estate